All right, so what we're going to be going over today is how to properly calculate your calories, right? Everybody is an individual. We each have our own individual caloric needs. So I'm going to show you how to do that really simple. Then we're going to talk about food labels 101, what's the best way to go about reading a food label and what's most important, especially when you're tracking calories. Then I'm going to go over using a food scale. This is going to be your best friend in the kitchen. Yes, I know it sounds crazy. I don't want to use a food scale. It's too much work. I promise you it's the most accurate way to get as close as possible to whatever that serving size is on that nutrition label. And I guarantee this, guys, after a certain amount of time, it becomes a little bit more intuitive. You'll be able to look at a piece of chicken, let's say the size of this mouse, and say, oh, that's about 4 ounces, and you're good to know. I'm also going to show you ways where you don't have to use the scale for every single thing that you do, okay? So don't let that run you away and scare you away, okay? Then I'm going to go over some tips and tricks. Again, going over how not to use that scale so often, what to look for on those food labels to make measuring and tracking a lot easier. And then my main objective is to show you a new perspective when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to calories, right? I'm going to say some things that a normal nutritionist might not say, but I want you to look at that as a different perspective when it comes to nutrition. So how to find your calories. Okay, so this could be the tricky part. You could do it the hard way, and you can go through this whole equation here on the left side of the slide, and it'll probably take you a half hour unless you're really good with math. I'm not, so I stay away from this stuff. I had to learn it in school going over this, but I don't use that. So to make it simple, there's thousands of apps you can use. The one I generally go to is calculator.net, or I'll just type in Google, for example, macro calculator, and this one will pop right up. And you can see it's really simple. You just type in your age, your gender, your height, your weight, and your activity level, because that's very important. The more active you are, the more calories you're going to need. Remember, food is energy. So the more active you are, the more energy you're going to need to fuel yourself. Okay. And then whatever your goal is. So if your goal is to lose weight, you can put that in here as an option. If it's to maintain weight, you're just looking to eat healthy and basically just recomposition your body slightly, then great. Or if you're looking to gain weight, like I said earlier in the presentation, that some people are a little bit hard when it comes to gaining weight, you could put that in there as well. But this is simple to do, and it'll give you a whole breakdown of all the percentages of your macros. But most importantly, we want to look at those calories. And the only macro we want to track is that protein. But again, we don't want to simplify everything, so we want to look at those calories. Okay, did you find your calories? Great. Well, now what? You say, okay, I got my calories marked. Now what do I do? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is, if you don't have one, invest in a food scale. And as you can see from that beautiful picture there, I have the same one. Guys, this food scale, seriously, you can see it's nice and thin. You could take it with you if you need to. Keep it in your drawer in the kitchen, put it on the countertop, whatever's easier for you. It's a digital scale. I'll put the link to the scale in the description below, and you can purchase it. It's generally like $13 on Amazon. Sometimes it's on sale, and it even comes with the batteries. Anyway, once you get your scale, familiarize yourself with it. Read the instructions. They're not that long. It takes about 5 minutes to read through the instructions. But what's great about the scale is, obviously it has the on and off button, but it's got the different units of measure. So you have grams, milliliters, ounces, and then pounds, which is also ounces. So that's important, right? So now that you have your scale, now that you are kind of familiar with it, you've weighed a few things, you kind of see how it operates. Now you have to understand, like I said earlier, this is where that small part of work comes in. If this is the only bit of work that you have to do to get to your dream body or your goal weight or healthy, off medications, whatever the case may be, I think this and a little bit of work is a lot better investment than a lot of doctor visits and medications, right? So again, I cannot emphasize enough, this will be your best friend in the kitchen, guys. And we're moving right along. We are already talking about food labels. Why? Because now that you know how to weigh things, now you have to know what you're weighing, right? So we're going to take a look at this nutrition label here on the slide. And I'm sure most of us are familiar with food labels. I'm sure all of us have seen them on our foods. But there's certain things to look for, especially when you're using a scale and weighing things and when you're tracking calories, right? I mean, I could sit here and any nutritionist or dietitian will sit here and talk to you about dietetic guidelines, servings of fruits, servings of vegetables, all that stuff, right? But what we want to focus on here obviously, other than looking at the fats and the saturated fats and whatnot, unless you truly need to. But remember, we're trying to track calories, right? So in that sense, we're going to look at the calories here that's on this food label. As you can see, it says 230, right? But some people might think that the whole package of whatever this is has 230 calories in it. That's not correct. Obviously, this has 8 servings in it. So if you were to buy this and eat the whole container, it's 230 times 8. So it's a lot more calories than what you know. But that's hopefully that is very obvious. And if not, then you know now, right? So don't just buy something, think it's got 100 calories, it's got 10 servings, and you're 1,000 calories in the whole. And then it says serving size, right? That's basically what we know. So I was going to say, how do we measure that? It says serving size is 2/3 of a cup, right? I always use this example when I'm doing a nutritional consultation. I'll say, let's just say this is a bag of frozen French fries, right? Who doesn't love French fries? But if you bought a bag of frozen French fries and it said a serving size is 2/3 a cup, actually what the bag says is generally about 12 pieces. But if you took out your trusty scale and you took 12 pieces out of the bag and you weighed it, it would give you a number, right? Exactly. So you dump those to the side, you take another 12 pieces from the bag, you put it on the scale, it's going to have a completely different number. It might be close, but it's going to be different. The reason for that is obviously some French fries are different size than one another. So if you're taking 12, they're all not going to be the same size. When they freeze, some of them hold a little bit more water than the others. So there's a lot of little factors that go into that. So you don't just want to go by the serving size. You want to go right to the right of that. As you can see, it says 55 grams. That is the weight or the unit weight that you want to measure in order to get to that actual serving size. Now, are food labels 100% accurate? No, of course not. They're not 100%, but they're really close. And they're close enough to keep you honest and close enough to keep you on track. So now that you know what you're looking for, every food label has this. In parentheses, next to the serving size, it should say what the unit measure is. For example, this one is 55 grams. So you'll turn your scale on, you'll set the unit of measure to grams, and you'll weigh out 55 grams, giving you 230 calories, right? That's super simple. But let's say you want 2 servings. Okay, 55 grams times 2, 110 grams, weigh it out, and now that's 460 calories, right? Very simple math. Things that all of us could do, and if not, we all have a cell phone for the most part. We can use our trusty little calculator and type it in there really quick, and we'll get our serving, and we'll get our calories, right? But that's the easiest way to go about looking at a nutrition label and figuring out, okay, if I need an actual serving size, what do I have to weigh? Again, look at those parentheses. Anything in those parentheses is what you want to weigh. Another good example is liquids. Let's say you're making a protein shake. Me, for example, I like to mix my protein shake with unsweetened vanilla almond milk. I know now it's only 30 calories per serving, and I know the serving size is 240 milliliters, right? That's an average serving of liquid. So I'll set my scale to milliliters, and I will pour in 240 milliliters. Now I have 30 calories of my almond milk, 1 full serving. So do that with everything that you're measuring. Now, sometimes, let's say you go to the grocery store and you buy a package of chicken. Depending what the brand of the chicken is, it'll have the label on there. That's great, right? But sometimes it doesn't. And you say, okay, well, how am I supposed to know what the serving size is? This is where Google and the internet is your best friend. Let's say you're eating chicken, for example. Just go to Google and type in, let's say your serving size is 4 ounces. 4 ounces of grilled, skinless, boneless chicken breast calories. It'll pop right up. General serving size is 4 ounces, roughly 125 to 130 calories. Close enough, right? Now, depending on how you're tracking this, if you're using an app or if you're just writing it down in a notebook, write it down, put it in the app. This way you know what it is. So now you never have to look it up again. It's there for you to reference every time you have your 4 ounces of chicken. I just want to reiterate one more time about the food scale. Listen, you can take my recommendation and go with the one that I have with the link below, or find one that works best for you, right? I suggest digital. However, they do have ones that are not digital. A little bit more difficult to read, I think, in my opinion, but find one that works best for you. And of course, like I said before, get used to the functionalities of the food scale. If you order this one and you're not too fond of it, Amazon's great about returning stuff. Return it, try another one, right? So now that you have everything and you found a scale that's comfortable for you and you're ready to go, you're good to begin. All right, guys, I just want to go through a really quick tutorial, show you how to use this food scale, show you how simple and easy it is, and then on top of that, show you how you don't have to use it for every single thing that you're eating, right? Especially if you're busy and you're on the go and you got a crazy schedule, you need to know what to weigh, how to use it most effectively, and then certain things you don't need to do. So what I'm going to do is just quickly go through, show you, I'm going to put together a quick lunch for tomorrow, show you how quick and easy this is, okay? Once you have your scale, obviously you want to turn it on. Keep it flat on the counter, right? But I want to show you things as we're going here. So once you turn it on, it should say 0. Now, on the right-hand side, you have a unit button. So as you can see, as I'm changing the units, it's going to grams, milliliters, ounces, so on and so forth. So for me right now, I'm going to be putting together my lunch. I'm going to be eating some chicken. So as you can see, I have already to the side some sliced grilled chicken ready to go. So I want to weigh that. My serving size is going to be 6 ounces or 4 ounces. I'm going to go for 6 ounces because I need a little bit more protein. So I'm going to grab my trusty dish. I'm going to put it on the scale. Now, the scale is going to weigh the dish. So we don't need to do any crazy math and subtract and do all this stuff. Very simple. On your scale, just hit that on-off button again, and it tears it. So it brings it right back down to 0. So now you have your units of measure at ounces. I'm going to take my chicken and I'm going to put it in the scale to measure out my serving size. So here we go, putting that in. This simple, right? Putting it in. We're at 4.20. Well, we're getting close. Let's see. Okay, so I don't have exactly 6 ounces of chicken. I have 5.4 ounces of chicken. So very simple. If you're over what your serving size is, let's say I wanted 5 ounces of chicken. Well, I would go in, take a little chunk out. Now I'm at 5.26, 4.83, put the small piece back in. 5 ounces, 4.97. That's close enough, right? So now, let's say I want to add vegetables to the mix. I have this bag of frozen vegetables. On the back here, I see that it's 40 calories per serving size. There's 3 servings in this bag. Now, depending on how many calories you have as an individual and you want to spread out your calories throughout the day, or you're able to eat slightly larger meals throughout the day, then you can just eat the whole bag, right? So now I know that there's 3 servings, 40 calories per serving. Very simple math. 4 times 3 is 12, but with the 0 at the end, so 120 calories for the whole bag. So I'll eat up this whole bag. I'll just put this in my lunch cooler and bring it with me on the go. If not, then I'll dump the whole thing in the bag and then I'll heat it up wherever I am and make it super simple. Now, if you want to weigh out each serving size of this, then you have to open the bag, weigh out each serving size. Serving size here is 85 grams per serving, so you would set your scale to grams. Hit the on-off button again, so now it tears everything. It's not weighing the chicken anymore, and it's not weighing the dish anymore. And now you can add in your vegetables. Very simple, guys. Keep it simple. Keep it easy. Try your best not to use the food scale as often, but definitely use it when you want to be exact, okay, if that makes sense. All right. Now I want to talk about some calorie tracking options that are out there. I mentioned earlier that you can use an app or a notepad or whatever's easier for you, right? So there's thousands and thousands of different apps out there for you to track your calories. One of the biggest one is, let's say, MyFitnessPal. And there's a whole ton of different food that's already stored in there. The only thing I would say is that a lot of that food is entered from us, basically. So is it accurate or close? Not sure. We're trusting whoever is putting that food in there. So for me, what I like to do is, even if I'm using an app like that, I like to generally put the food in there first because I'm the one entering it, and I trust myself most of the time, right? So if you're going to use an app, I would say anything that you're putting in there, especially if you're somebody who eats basically the same thing for most of the week, then it's in there. You know it's in there, and you trust it, okay? You can go as far as getting a food journal. They have specific journals dedicated just for tracking food, and it's got a bunch of different things in there. It's got a cool layout, a little bit more on the pricier side than an actual notepad. Me, I have a spiral notepad on my kitchen. I like this method. This method works for me. It might not work for you. For in my opinion, using an app, now I'm taking more time entering stuff into an app, scanning stuff with a barcode scanner. So I want stuff to be simple and I want it to be convenient, especially if you're busy and you have a busy schedule and you're getting up in the morning and you're not meal planning and you're just putting your lunch together and you want to track it real quick. You could do that with just a simple notepad. This you can buy for $1. Simple, right? Quick and easy. However, if somebody came to my house and saw this on my counter, I don't know if you could see it, but there is a ton of different numbers on there. I just tell people I'm a math whiz. I'm not, obviously, as I mentioned before. I'm not great with math, but that's my excuse. So they don't think that I'm losing my mind by writing numbers all over a page. And I just keep it really simple, guys. I literally will just put B for breakfast, and I'll write down, measure it out, figure out what I have, write it down. Breakfast, B, 150 calories, 200 calories. Then I'll put F for fruit, and I'll put whatever the calories are. L for lunch, so it's just super simple. So when I leave for work, for example, and I have my cooler with me with all my food, I know that in that cooler I have, for example, 1,200 calories. And then when I come home, I have another 12 to 1,500 calories that I can consume for dinner, and then maybe a little bit of dessert at the end of the night, right? So this is just easy for me. If this works for you, great. If the apps work for you, fantastic. There's thousands of them out there, like I said. Or if you like to be a little bit more on the organized side and you would like a nice fancy food journal, go for that option as well. But needless to say, there is a ton of different options for you out there to be successful when it comes to tracking your calories. Okay, so now I want to give you a little bit of a different perspective when it comes to nutrition. We all know that there are a certain amount of nutritional guidelines that we need to follow, like certain amounts of fruits, certain amounts of vegetables, a well-balanced approach to our nutrition. And we do want to eat healthy, and I promote eating healthy, absolutely. But that does not mean you have to change your whole lifestyle around to eat healthy. A little bit of perspective is 9 times out of 10, someone will say, I need to go on a diet, right? First off, we're all on a diet. It could be a healthy diet, a not healthy diet, a Mediterranean diet, whatever. We're all on a diet, right? We want to change that mindset a little bit and look at it as more of a healthy eating lifestyle, okay? Also, when it comes to different diets out there, like fad diets, yes, some of them do work in the beginning, but they're very restrictive in what you can eat, what you can't eat. And 9 times out of 10, if you stick with it for a little bit, they're not sustainable, right? Because what happens is you're following this diet that's very restrictive to what you can and can't eat. You might lose a little bit of weight in the beginning, but then now you're deficient in vitamins and minerals and certain things that you get from whole natural foods that you should be eating, that you should have balance of, right? Another thing too is don't fear carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are not your enemy. Yes, we want to stick more towards complex carbs as opposed to simple carbs. Complex carbs, it just means there's more nutrients within. It takes your body longer to break them down. Your body works harder to break them down. There's a lot more nutritional value to them. Okay, so we want to have complex carbs. Carbohydrates are a great source of energy. The way our body burns energy, okay, we burn carbohydrates first, then we burn fat, then we burn protein. We do not want to burn protein. That means our body has become catabolic. That's not good. That means we're muscle wasting. We do not ever want to get to that point. But what we want to do is have enough carbohydrates to where we provide ourselves with enough energy to be active so that once we burn off those carbohydrates, we're tapping into those fat stores, right? And that's where that weight loss really starts to happen. And then our metabolism's firing really fast. So that different perspective I was talking about. When I mentioned earlier in this presentation that it's calories in versus calories out, or whether I didn't mention that or not earlier, that is the most important thing when it comes to losing weight, right? Or maintaining weight or gaining weight. If you're in a caloric deficit, you're going to lose weight. If you are in a caloric surplus, you're going to gain weight. That being said, depending on what your maintenance calories are, If, let's say, you wanted to lose weight, you put yourself in a deficit to lose that weight, right? But that being said, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you were somebody who requires, let's just say, 2,000 calories a day to lose a half a pound a week, and you went to a fast food chain and you just bought 2,000 calories worth of fast food and ate that, I would say you're going to lose weight. You're not going to feel great. And I do not recommend doing that at all. Do not do that. But the law of thermodynamics does not change. Also, if you're somebody that requires 2,000 calories to lose a half a pound a week, and a staple healthy meal is generally, you hear this all the time, I'm sure, chicken, brown rice, and broccoli, right? Boring. It's very boring. After a while, it gets really boring. But if you ate 2,500 calories of brown rice, chicken, and broccoli, guess what? You are going to gain weight. I always say this to anybody I sit down with when I do nutrition consultation. There's no such thing as bad food. There's only bad ingredients. And what I mean by that is you don't have to go on these fad diets that are restrictive. You don't have to restrict yourself from eating certain things that you enjoy eating already. But there's ways to manipulate the recipes, to change the ingredients, choose smarter ingredients to change what you're currently eating and still satisfy those cravings. So it doesn't feel like you're on a diet. It just feels like you're making better choices. And by eating the things you are used to eating, just by manipulating the recipe a little bit, you don't have those cravings to go run out to a fast food store or to eat certain things because you're not restricting yourself. So you don't feel like you're on a diet. You just feel like, again, like you're making better choices when it comes to your food. Also, too, when you get your caloric intake number, and let's say it is 2,000 calories, let's just say that's the number. I'm going to throw that out there. Imagine that as a bank account or a debit card. And somebody says, hey, John, Jane, here's $2,000. I'm going to deposit it into your account, and I want you to spend that today. Absolutely. Go shopping. Go spend it. Spend it all. Don't overspend because that means you're overeating. And don't underspend. Don't try to save all of that to have a big purchase at the end, right? But make sure you spend it all and then make smart purchases. And what I mean by that is, in a different perspective, I'm just going to use salad dressing as a perspective, as an example. Why? Because like I said earlier, when somebody says, I'm going to go on a diet, the first thing they do is eat a salad, generally. And the salad's beautiful. Fresh greens, tomatoes, onions, cucumbers, grilled chicken. It's beautiful. It's a well-balanced salad. Then they take ranch, for example, and they just dump it all over the top of the salad. You might as well just go get the burger. There's so many calories in that, right? So that's not a smart purchase. Now, when you're in the grocery store, take your time. There's a ton of different products out there that have less fat, less sugar, or no sugar, or zero fat. Those are better options for you. Do they taste the same as the regular? No, of course not. But I guarantee after a little bit of time eating it, and the flavors have gotten a lot better in these foods over the past decade, I would say, that you just get so used to it. For example, I can't eat regular ketchup anymore. I have to buy no sugar added ketchup. The regular ketchup is way too sweet for me. So make those changes. And here's a great example, just to put that in perspective once again, okay? One serving of ranch is 30 grams. It's 180 calories generally. 30 grams is not a lot. The fat-free version, same weight, 30 grams, 35 calories. So you see, you can have 3 times the amount on your salad and still have less calories than one serving of regular ranch. Smart purchase. Poor purchase. Let's say you do have 2,000 calories and you're really craving a burger from a fast food place. And you say, well, I'm going to go get that meal. And that meal's 1,200 calories. Well, guess what? Now you have only 700 calories to spread out for the rest of the day. It's not a smart purchase, okay? Listen, eating bad every once in a while is not going to hurt you. Just like eating good every once in a while is not going to help you. But as long as you're consistent and eating clean and eating good and tracking your calories and making those smart purchases throughout the day, you are going to win. You are going to be successful when it comes to your goal. And very important is to try to eat throughout the day. And some people argue and say they like intermittent fasting, and if intermittent fasting works great for you, fantastic. Then stick with that if it's working well. I will say this though, if your goal is to lose weight, make sure you still get your caloric needs for the day for you as an individual so that you can hit that number within your eating window. Not your fasting window. That's no eating. But I like to emphasize eating throughout the day for a couple different reasons. One, it provides us with good energy throughout the day. Okay. Number two, it really helps our metabolism start working and burning. That is what we want. Okay. We don't need big meals throughout the day, but here's another one of those perspectives for you. That's going to be my favorite word in this presentation. Perspective. Imagine your metabolism is a fire. If you've ever started a campfire before, or just a fire in general, you know that in order to keep it going, you have to feed it every so often, or else the flame gets really low and potentially goes out. Just like us. Our energy gets really low when we don't eat. How many of you get that afternoon lull if you don't eat? Our energy gets really low and we get really hungry, just like that fire. That fire's starving to be fed. But with us, if we get really hungry, we generally eat a big meal and then we go into that food coma, right? I'm sure we've all experienced that food coma before. But this is what's happening. If you've ever had a fire and you let it sit and the flame gets really low and you took a big log and you threw it on top of that fire, what happens to that fire? If any of you said that it gets distinguished, that's correct. It gets put out completely. You're doing the same thing to your metabolism. You are tanking your metabolism. You are slowing it down. So you want to, every 2 to 2.5 hours, put a little something in your body, have a breakfast, have a snack, have a lunch, another snack, a dinner, and leave yourself room for dessert at the end of the night. You can still eat dessert. Just make those smart purchases. Listen, guys, I guarantee that if you listen to me, you use that scale properly, and you just manipulate your recipes, I guarantee you will be successful when it comes to whatever your goal is, whether it's, again, losing weight, maintaining weight, or gaining weight. I mentioned one time before that the protein is the number one macronutrient that you should track other than the calories. If you're just looking to lose a little bit of weight, I still suggest looking at your protein intake as well. Protein is that macronutrient that your body works the hardest to break down. It keeps you fuller longer also. So those are a couple things to keep in mind. But listen to me. I swear it will help, okay?